Rồi. Excuse me, what time is it?
It's 10 o'clock.
It's 10 o'clock, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
By the way, my name is Ha. Nice to meet you.
My name is Long. Nice to meet you too.
So your name is Long, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Nice name.
Thanks. Your name is good too.
May I ask you some questions about your daily routine?
Yes, of course.
What time do you usually get up?
I usually get up at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock?
Yes.
And after getting up, what do you usually do after getting up?
Well, after getting up, I usually take exercise.
Take exercise?
Yes.
Do you usually take exercise?
Yes, I do. I do it very often.
You do it very often?
Yes.
How often do you take exercise?
I can take exercise every day.
Every day?
Yes.
When do you usually take exercise?
I usually take exercise in the morning.
In the morning?
Yes.
What time do you usually take exercise?
I usually take exercise at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock?
Yes.
Who do you usually take exercise with?
I usually take exercise alone.
Alone?
Yes.
How long does it take you to take exercise?
It takes me about 10 minutes to take exercise.
10 minutes?
Yes.
And after taking exercise, what do you usually do after taking exercise?
After taking exercise? Well, after taking exercise, I usually do my homework.
Do my homework?
Pardon?
Sorry, do your homework?
Yes.
Do you usually do your homework? Sorry, do you usually do your homework? Sorry, do you usually do your homework?
Yes, I do. I do it very often.
You do it very often?
Yes.
How often do you do your homework?
I do my homework every day.
Every day?
Yes.
When do you usually do your homework?
I usually do my homework in the morning.
In the morning?
Yes.
What time do you usually do your homework?
I usually do my homework at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock?
Yes.
Who do you usually do your homework with?
I usually do my homework alone.
Alone?
Yes.
How long does it take you to do your homework?
It takes me about 2 hours to do my homework.
Pardon?
It takes me about 2 hours to do my homework.
2 hours?
2 hours?
2 hours?
Yes.
And after doing the homework, what do you usually do after do the homework?
Doing your homework?
Sorry. And after doing the homework, what do you usually do after doing the homework?
Well, after doing my homework, I usually have breakfast.
Have breakfast?
Yes.
Do you usually have breakfast?
Have breakfast? Yes, I do. I do it very often.
You do it very often?
Yes.
How often do you have breakfast?
I have breakfast every day.
Every day?
Yes.
What time do you usually have breakfast?
I usually have breakfast at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock?
Yes.
Who do you usually have breakfast with?
I usually have breakfast alone.
Alone?
Yes.
How long does it take you to have breakfast?
It takes me about 10 minutes to have breakfast.
10 minutes?
Yes.
And after having breakfast, what do you usually do after having breakfast?
Well, after having breakfast, I usually go to work.
Go to work?
Yes.
Do you like going to work?
Yes, but not very much.
Not very much?
Yes.
How often do you go to work?
I go to work 6 days a week.
6 days a week?
Yes.
When do you usually go to work?
I usually go to work in the morning.
In the morning?
Yes.
What time do you usually go to work?
I usually go to work at 7 o'clock in the morning.
7 o'clock in the morning?
Yes.
Who do you usually go to work with?
I usually go to work alone.
Alone?
Yes.
How many people are there in your office?
There are 15 people in my office.
There are 15 people?
Yes.
How far is it from the room to your office?
It's about 10 kilometers from my room to my office.
10 kilometers?
Yes.
How do you usually go? How do you usually go to work?
I usually go to work by motorbike.
By motorbike.
Yes.
How long does it take you to get to
Your office.
your office?
It takes me about 30 minutes to go to work.
Pardon?
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Yes.
And after going to work, what do you usually do after going to work?
Well, after going to work, I usually have lunch.
Have lunch?
Yes.
Do you usually have lunch?
Yes, I do. I do it very often.
You do it very often?
Yes.
How often do you have lunch?
I have lunch every day.
Every day?
Yes.
What time do you usually have lunch?
I usually have lunch at 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock?
Yes.
Who do you usually have lunch with?
I usually have lunch alone.
Alone?
Yes.
How long does it take you to have lunch?
It takes me about 10 minutes to have lunch.
10 minutes?
Yes.
And after having lunch, what do you usually do after having lunch?
Well, after having lunch, I usually come back home.
Come back home?
Yes.
Do you usually come back home?
No. What time?
Sorry, what time do you? Thì cứ trả lời là dễ không?
What time?
What time do you usually come back home? Không.
I usually come back home at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock?
Yes.
And after coming back home, what do you usually do after coming back home from work?
Well, after coming back home from work, I usually have a boss.
Have boss?
Yes.
Do you usually have boss?
Yes, I do. I do it very often.
You do it very often?
Yes.
When do you usually have boss?
I usually have a boss in the evening.
In the evening?
Yes.
How long does it take you to have lunch?
Sorry, pardon.
Do you usually
Pardon.
How long does it take you to have boss?
It takes me about 10 minutes to have a boss.
10 minutes?
Yes.
And after having a boss, what do you usually do after having a boss?
Well, after having boss, I usually have dinner.
Have dinner?
Yes.
Do you usually have dinner?
Yes, I do. I do it very often.
You do it very often?
Yes.
How often do you have dinner?
I have dinner every day.
Every day?
Yes.
When do you what time do you usually have dinner?
I usually have dinner at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock?
Yes.
Who do you usually have dinner with?
I usually have dinner alone.
Alone?
Yes.
How long does it take you to have dinner?
It takes me about 10 minutes to have dinner.
10 minutes?
Yes.
And after having dinner, what do you usually do after having dinner?
Well, after having dinner, I usually go to bed.
Go to bed?
Yes.
What time do you usually go to bed?
I usually go to bed at 11 o'clock.
At 11 o'clock?
Yes.
And before going to bed, what do you usually do before going to bed?
Well, before going to bed, I usually do the washing.
Do the washing?
Yes.
Nice.
You're welcome.
Okay, see you later.
See you later, thật thôi.
Lại đi.
Thôi. Pin yếu rồi kìa.